Hi guys, Andy N, Spoken Label on a Sunday evening. I'm going to say sorry because this is an adult content podcast already. It's been fucking boiling today. Been nearly 30 degrees and we've had thunderstorms and rain massively about an hour ago. So it kind of makes sense for us today to go to speak to this wonderful writer next to me who's living in an even hotter country than us. We've got fantastic Molly Garcia. Now, I've been chatting to Molly on Facebook for about 2-3 months now, haven't we? So Molly. Yeah, and it's quite a good story. We got chatting originally because should we say tell people how we first met?
Yes, go on. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I've got a bit of a mission on one of them groups, wasn't
it's
it?
one of these writers groups, and Molly here was then standing up against spammers, and I perfectly agreed with what she said, and it just ended up we ended up chatting, didn't we? And then like we both got to know each other's style and sense of humour, and then we got to know I got to know Molly for writing after that, really. And it was a complete accident, but that's the best way sometimes that is. So, but you were dead funny. You were in those groups. I'm not going to name the group, and I'm not going to tell it because we'll just say it was funny. So, and you were dead right. So, but anyway, Molly. Okay, I'm going to let you first of all. You better tell people obviously where you're living now, away from originally, and should we start off? Tell us about what started off your creativity then.
I live in Tenerife now, although I did live in the UK for a long time. We came out here in 1997 originally. Then we went back to the UK when my daughter was small because she was born here. And then we returned as very sharpish just before Brexit to make sure we could return to the island that we'd lived on for so long. I used to write a lot when I was younger. And I even sent stuff off to sort of publishers back in the day when you didn't email things because we didn't have one. So you basically printed it all off and yammed it into a great big envelope and trudled yourself down to the post office in the rain to get them to sort of deliver it for you.
Oh God, yeah, the old stamped address envelope day, wasn't it? God, yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
used
then
to
they'd
do that.
weigh it, make sure that you hadn't gone over, and obviously it's a whole manuscript. So you'd be like, great, hopefully this will go somewhere. It didn't.
usual case back in those days, wasn't it?
Yeah, the dreams of, the first time you send it off to somebody, they're just going to come back and go, oh my God, you're so amazing. Would you like £1,000,000? It hasn't happened. It didn't happen.
Hasn't
And then
happened
life
to me
gets
either,
in the
so
way,
I know what you
doesn't it?
mean. Yeah.
You get busy and you don't sort of, you write for fun sometimes, but you don't really do anything much with it. It just sort of sits there. And then when we moved here, it was kind of like, oh, this self-publishing thing.
Oh.
And it off to probably give that a bit of a whirly. So yeah, so the writing that I'd been doing before, some of it sort of half done, some of it just sort of first draft unedited stuff. I sort of tinkered about with it and sort of made the decision really to publish it myself rather than go through the trauma of numerous rejections. Numerous rejections.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I've gone for that myself, and when I was a poet, so not really nowadays. And like I've had 3 or 4 of my books that I've got commissioned, and actually I was offered deals with a couple of them, and you just see them sometimes, and it applies to larger and smaller press. Sometimes just you see the contract come through, you're sat there thinking, "You bastards, absolute bastards! They sneak things in the deals, don't they? That's why." So that's why.
Yeah,
But
I think
yeah,
even if you're lucky enough to get one, generally
yeah,
you're probably not going to actually do that well out of it.
no,
I
no.
think the dream is that, let me get a traditional contract. I'm going to be, they'll give me in advance, my life's going to be like really awesome. They'll publicize it for me out, and it will be bought up by millions, maybe even made into a film. And,
Yeah.
you can let your imagination get proper carried away. And it has happened to people. I mean, it does,
Oh
doesn't it?
no, I'm not going to name names, but I actually know somebody that's self-published author like us too. Who's just said one of his books commissioned by Netflix. Would you believe? And
Exactly. And it
I
can
don't know how
happen.
the hell he's done it. And I'm due to speak to him fairly soon. I'm spoken label. I'm not going to name
Yeah,
him.
find out, find out.
I'm going to find out. I'll let everybody know if they want to find out. I'll tell you after who the podcast is with. So that's not on air. But I'm curious now. Seriously, before we go into your writing itself, Joe, we've got to do a trigger warning here, haven't we? Straight away. So do you want to tell people? I'll let you tell people what the trigger warning is because we should have mentioned this from the off.
Yeah, so for Willow Weeps particularly, it's about a missing child, but it's also a supernatural thriller. So there are parts in it that are probably a little bit more sort of horror orientated than just plain thriller. So If your triggers are gore and or missing children, then you probably want to be careful with Willow Weeps. There are other books that are not quite as triggering, but
it's worth just serious trigger one of this podcast, guys and girls. So that's why I should have mentioned that from the off. Now, obviously, Joe, I know originally yourself, you started work. Your work is in social care, isn't it? And you work in the NHS for some years now. I don't know if you're still in the NHS actually, but I know you've been using a lot of that, haven't you, to guide your writing and just quote your own bio. This it's brilliant to quote you write complex and realistic characters in the backgrounds. So tell us about that then, how that led you that direction then.
Well, I started working in the NHS when I was 17, so a very long time ago.
Oh, just a couple of years ago, yeah.
Or anything, but I've had sort of several breaks where I lived here for 7 years in my 20s and what have you, but that's where I've always drifted back to. And I kind of sort of finished up my career in social care. So I work with people with mental health, ex-offenders, people who've been homeless, rough sleeping. So I think that kind of gives you more of maybe an idea of why some of my characters tend to look like they're not going to be very nice people, but always have a bit of a backstory that explains why they've become the way they have, because I think everybody does have one. It's very rare to meet someone who's truly, truly evil without any redeeming features or reasons for being that way. And I think it's important that even in books, your characters are complex enough for someone to say, yeah, I can kind of see why it turned out like that, though. I don't feel sorry for him. He's horrible, but at the end of the day, yeah, I think everyone wants a reason as well, don't you? When you hear something really awful's happened, one of the first questions everyone asks is why.
Yeah, no, I agree with you straight away. What it does is you always got to look at it's not just straight black and white. I'm always a firm believer you've got to look at the fine lines in the middle. So yeah, no, agree with you completely with that. So now people will research, you'll discover you've been, despite the fact a lot of your books sometimes have been grisly, then gory, and then whatever else we look at it. You've approached it several different ways. Now, we'll touch on, first of all, the ones I've not really read yet, which was the Adam and Sarah series. Now, tell us about the background in that series, first of all, then. And Alka, I know you've done a spin off book in that one, haven't you, as well? So there's been several books in that series dangling around.
Yeah, I mean, they were my first two, really. I mean, I would say they are very much around the social care sort of background. I mean, breach of trust is around supported housing and a scheme that particularly houses ex-offenders. And again, probably a trigger warning for the book is that there's somebody killing sex offenders. Obviously leaves you a very big list of why would someone want to do that? Well, there's quite a few people that might want to.
Well, the same thing seems to be happening in Willow Weeps, doesn't it, there as well? I seem to recall.
Yeah, so you've got the kind of like the really evilly sort of person, and then in bedding down, as per the name, but this is what you say for a rough sleeper who's found somewhere to stay, they're bedding down for the night. So it's we met this guy called Big Bill in the first book, but kind of not massively. He was just there in the background. He becomes quite a big part of bedding down because there's someone killing people in the homeless community. And Bill, being homeless, has one foot in each camp. So he's got a little foot in the homeless camp, so they trust him. But also he has a friend in the police service, which is Carpy. So he tends to be the one that they go to, and he helps sort of like smooth the way for them to talk to people that perhaps wouldn't normally speak to them. But because Bill was kind of interesting and he gave you a little bit of backstory in bedding down, it just kind of occurred to me that maybe he needed his own little novella all of his own to explain how he ended up where he did. And
now I'm going to ask you this next question before we go on to the other two things we'll talk about today. When your short story collection was, I've heard the fantastic audible version of it, and also Willow Weeps itself. But I was like, that's a series now. Tell us about how it varies you doing the series, you're doing short stories and also a standalone novel.
I think with the series, it depends very. I mean, sometimes they don't intend to be series, and it's just that after you finished it, you kind of feel that there's something undone with the characters, or the characters were so perhaps good that you think, yeah, I think they've got a little bit more to give yet, a little bit more to give. So they tend to sort of, the next book you're writing, you can't get rid of them out of your head. So all of a sudden they kind of crop up on your page again. You're going, oh, for God's sake, there you are, what you doing? I'll put you back in there then, shall I?
Oh,
And
it's
that's
just
kind of how that one went.
it's sod's law. It's, and I've had it myself before now when things like that sneak up on you and you don't expect it, and before you know it, you can end up writing loads of stuff about it. And I've got full books of poetry or accidents starting off with like shoving political things and end up in 100 pages before you know it. So yeah, so it so easily happens. I get you completely with that one. So
I
now,
think characters sometimes think like it's a democracy when it's not, and they just go off doing their own thing, and you're just kind of like, no, 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 you don't get a vote.
yeah. And what are you like with when you plan these sort of series out and like your novels? I know the novel I've got on the go at the moment and the novel I'm writing, I've let the characters just live a lot really by writing all tons of notes on them. And a lot of it won't go in the books themselves. But just I want them to live a life basically before I go and destroy it. Basically.
Oh, dead.
Yeah. There will be a time I finished them.
I don't I don't like an awful lot of planning. It's kind of like the original idea comes, we go, oh yeah, see, that would be a really good idea. And then it writes itself to start with. And then I tend to make like loads of little notes everywhere where I think, yeah, this is what should happen next, or this is who should turn up, or and it kind of comes slowly. But I know a lot of people work from proper outlines where like real ones where they go, these are all my characters, this is chapter one, this is where they're going to end up. I can't do that, to be honest, too structured. I'm not very good with that at all. I just kind of like fly in there.
Yeah, I
And
do. And I know Amanda does as well. So
out.
I've got to tell you, I found the other day, and I've been working on this a couple of weeks. I'm just trying to pull you through Grammarly at the moment, and then I'm going to try and get another draft in it done. I found the 40-word thousand novel, which I thought I'd lost about 5 or 10 years ago. And I found it the other day, and I this and I thought, I thought, it is a lot. These never a couple of drafts, but I mean, you find things and then you look back, you get caught out, can't you, in a writer sometimes? That's why, but
And
yeah,
sometimes you want to bring them back to life because you have a little
yeah.
read through and go, oh, actually, this isn't all, this is all right, this.
Yeah, that's what it's
Little
like. This one is.
here.
Yeah, it needs a lot of work, and I bought the Grammarly thing's corrected about 2/3 from being dyspraxic, but it needs a draft. And I've got to get another couple of chapters in the middle of it. But yeah, it'll be 50,000 words, so then it's out there, get it out. So watch your space. So anyway, listen, Joe, we're about to talk about you really. Now, the first one of yours I read was Comeuppance, Dark and Twisted Tales, which you kind of sent over me the code on for Audible, which was probably I've only listened to 2 rebooks on Audible. And I'm going to be honest, it took me bloody ages to work out how to download this as well, as with Willow Weeps as well. I'm stupid on them. But I loved it. And but tell us then about Comeuppance then. Because like I said, Comeuppance kind of says it all where there's a lot of characters in these books that meet the Comeuppance. But it's what made you want to do this as a short story book?
I quite like writing horror short stories for fun. So it was kind of like in between writing this, the other stuff. Every now and again, I'd kind of get this little idea for a horror story, and I'd be like, that would be nice. And I'd start it, and it wouldn't turn into a book. It'd just be a short story, maybe 5,000-6,000 words. And I'd just tuck it away, tuck it away. I had a little folder called short stories, literally, and just kind of tuck them in there. And then I was sort of reading through them, and I thought, do you know what? They'd actually, you could kind of have like a little book of short stories, couldn't you? Just from these. And then I found they were kind of following a little bit of a theme, some of them. So the ones that were themed, I sort of put together because I'd say the theme really is, karma. Because you don't get karma often enough in the real world, do you? People get away with stuff they shouldn't get away with. Mean people never get their comeuppance. They always come out smelling like roses. And I thought, no, not in Molly's world. No, in Molly's world, they're going to get theirs.
They
So
did.
every
They did.
story is kind of like, see this one, see how horrible they are. Just wait.
They get it. They get it. Yeah, it was grisly. I'm not even going to tell people which story to go and look at because I thought they're all brilliant. The ones, all of them I've read straight away, and I thought it was tremendous stuff. But yeah, it was one of those ones where you sat there thinking, I felt sorry for two. I'm not going to name which story. There was 2 of them I actually felt sorry for, where the
Go
characters
on.
died. And it was one where, it was the one where someone got ate by rats or something, wasn't it? Rats or
Oh, the The sewers.
Sewers, yeah, that one. I felt sorry for the character who got that one. Not naming who it was, but I felt sorry for the poor booker. That one
Did you
got
really
it.
feel sorry for him? Oh, he was horrible though. He was so mean to everyone. He
Yeah,
so
it was.
deserved that.
And
And
I
you had to
sat.
get rid of them somehow.
Yeah, you're going to do it. You do it in style. That's all I'm going to say. And that was style. And I sat there thinking, you've been an absolute git in this story. And then, I know, those. I don't want to give too much away, but should we
Or
say,
NIMBY. I mean, that is the most evil old person you've probably ever met in your life, isn't it? Really. I mean,
yeah.
you wouldn't want her as your neighbour, would you?
Oh, the neighbour one, which we're going to mention. Yeah, that was. I actually thought myself when I was growing up with my mum and dad, and thankfully don't listen to this podcast, my family don't either. We had a neighbour next door to us, and she kept reminding me of her. She did, and it was like, and I thought myself, oh yes, what's that character?
It's
What's
my
that
neighbour
character?
here.
Is that your neighbour there? I was wondering about that.
He's so annoying. He spent like about all over Christmas. So he started in about end of September, October. He started doing this DIY stuff like drilling and doing really noisy shit all day when I'm trying to work. And he did it all over Christmas, all through January. And literally that's how the idea came to me, where I was just like, do you know what? I'm gonna kill you off in a story.
Really? How did it find? Was some of those stories easy to write in others then? Would there just been like one-off short stories like that for yourself? I think sometimes short stories are harder to write than actual novels sometimes.
They seem to kind of come to a natural end at that point. So where some of them are longer. I mean, I think there's a couple that are sort of about 7,000-8,000 words long. I think Entwined is quite long, especially. Yeah. I think it's probably the longest one, isn't it? But
yeah,
yes,
it's quite a long audible book actually as well. People wonder about that because it was 7.5 hours long, was it? It was something like that, wasn't it? So yeah. Now I'm going to talk on a bit about your audible side of things because the two I've heard were read by two fantastic gentlemen. One of which I want to try and get on spoken label of a different podcast. But let's go and talk before we do that. Let's talk about Willow Weeps then, your novel, which you sent to me about 2 weeks ago, basically. Which was, and this is why I'm putting the trigger warning on it, one of the most disturbing books I've ever read.
Which is really weird, isn't it? Because it's not the horror book, no, it's the supernatural thriller that gets the warnings.
Yeah. And this, people wondered, obviously, like, no, I'm married to a horror writer. This was like, I told Amanda about this, and she's just been bombed out with her freelancing work. But she said to me she wants to read this, see how gory it is. And I said, yeah, it's pretty good. Like just rubbing her hands together, thinking, challenge. Let's see if challenge accepted.
Trigger warnings kind of work both ways, don't they? It protects people who would be disturbed by it, but it also encourages some people to go, trigger warning. Oh, how tidy. I'm having a bit of that. I'm like it when I watch TV programs. As soon as they put it up on the screen, they're like, warning, this contains, and you're like, oh yes. Oh yes.
Yeah, well, I'm married to somebody when we watch horror films. There's all these trigger warnings at the top of it, 18. Somebody's in the room is going, yes, oh yes.
Me at the back going, oh yes.
Yeah. Look at this. And then depending what certain film we're going to watch, so go and get a big bottle of cider in and have crisps in. That's all I'm going to say, right? Just to have a laugh. And I bet you're like that as well, probably.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, here we go. Look, it's going to be nasty. Everyone else leaves the room.
Yeah. We watched Evil Dead Rise the other week. We did, and oh, blimey, that was gory. That was gory.
Do you reckon it's as horrible as my search engine looks? My search engine is horrific.
Just for research purposes, of course, isn't it? So now, obviously, tell us about Willow Weeps then. What made you want to? First of all, what was the trigger to this book then? What led you into Willow Weeps?
So I had this little idea, and it's where it starts. So I started off with, oh, imagine being the little brother that's in charge of your little sister, and she goes missing. She vanishes and she's never seen again, but you were in charge of her. So my kids have got like a 10-year age gap, and they're very close. So I think my little girl's sort of older brother would be horrified if anything had happened to her while he was in charge of her. And while he would be similar, like moaning that he was being dumped with his little sister, he'd do the best he could for her. Do you know what I mean? But imagine if the worst thing happened. And it just kind of came in my head. So I've written that first bit, which is sort of based in 1993 when it sort of happens. And it kind of grew from there. And then my daughter came up with an excellent little character because she loves, her favorite series when she was a kid was always Ghost Whisperer. So she wanted to see like a Ghost Whisperer type character who wasn't as girly. she's not massively keen on the whole free dress girly thing. So that's where Cleo came in. I thought, do you know what, Cleo could be in my new one actually, with the whole, you know, like fairground missing kitty thing. And then as soon as that idea came, the rest of it sort of potted on as to how you bring, you know, how do you bring all these characters together into an actual story? And it just sort of wrote itself, really. That one came out quite easy.
Yeah, yeah. It just shows you sometimes. There were some books like it. They actually they just tend to take off in a direction you're not expecting sometimes, don't they, with that one? So, but as I said, we have to talk about it. Obviously, it really was a gory book. Was there any scenes in it that actually freaked you out in it when you were writing it?
I don't get like the whole sort of like scared thing. I think probably the most horrible bit potentially is the death of one of the blokes that was involved in the original case when he's alone in his house. That's probably quite unpleasant. But I think for me it was like I'd get really upset writing about sort of like potentially sort of like the little bits where the family would feel really distressed at not knowing what had happened to her and stuff. And I found that more upsetting than writing the gory stuff, because the gory stuff's kind of like, it's usually the bad people that are getting it. So you just think, well, there
Oh
you go,
God,
you
yeah.
can have a bit of that. but
Oh God, yeah, completely with that one. And it
but
was
the
like,
nice people, that was harder, really. You don't want anything horrible to happen to nice people, do you? So I find that
no,
really difficult.
yeah, that was was difficult. And it was interesting at the end of it, yeah. And I have to go into spoiler territory. Is that the prison scenes that came into the book, and I was sat there thinking, oh God, after what we've just gone through with the rest of
This
this
isn't going
book,
to end well.
nope.
No, it
I'll,
didn't.
and it didn't. That's all I'm going to say with that one. Should we just say, right, we'll leave it a bit there, definitely with that one. God almighty, yeah. But that one, how long did it take you to write this book then? Because it was, I know it was 4.5 hours in Audible, so it wasn't obviously as long as Comeuppance. Anyway, that's the show of it. So,
Yeah. I mean, it took 2.5, 3 months.
well, it's not bad then, is it? So it's like, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not too bad. It came like really came for itself, but I was like, found it really hard to sleep sometimes because I'd have all these ideas. So I'd be getting up and typing away at sort of 3 o'clock in the morning. My other half would be like, "What? Hello, where are you? Oh, morning.
yeah. Morning,
How long
yeah.
you been out here? For about 5 hours now, I think."
Yeah. It's word is that you ain't going
But the whole
anywhere.
thing
You ain't going
added
anywhere
up
just yet.
properly.
That's for sure with it. So yeah. Oh God, yeah. No, I get completely like it's just so it just books sometimes, like I said before, go on lives of their own, don't they? So with that one. Now, in both of these books, obviously, I've been not reading, listening to. They've been narrated, and both by fantastic gentlemen as well. So tell us about the next and what made you want to actually start bringing me books out in Audible.
I was in one of well, I'm in some of the on Facebook. I'm on some readers groups as well, as well, which is obviously a really cool place for an author to hang out
Of
with readers
course.
who may want to read your books. And obviously we're all big readers too. You don't write books unless you happen to like reading. So they're kind of cool places. And I noticed a lot of people were putting up that they would be more willing to try a new author if it was available in audio, because for particular reasons, quite a few people were saying, maybe eyesight problems or being neurodiverse, they might find it much easier to listen to an audio than they would have a physical book. So I'm kind of like, oh yeah. And I looked into it a little bit and it looked like it was going to be like mega expensive. And I'm kind of like, yeah, this is probably going to be one of those one day in the future things. And then someone told me that ACX do quite a lot of different offers and options. And they do one called royalty share. And that means you don't put anything up front. You and the narrator share, split the profits in half with each other. So, obviously the more you sell, the more both of you will make from this project. And it means you don't have to find those upfront costs. So it makes it possible for everyone. But it also means it's a good quality. It's not, it's not one of those rubbishy quality ones where someone's done it on Google AI and they've got sort of a little robotic voice reading it off. It's like a proper good quality audio, but as good as any of the others that are out there. And I think it's taken off a little bit more in some ways than the sort of my printed copies and what have you, because they do sound pretty good. They do sound pretty good,
Oh,
especially
they're
Willow
excellent.
and Comeuppance. They are. And Becoming Bill is also an audio. So
Yeah,
there's
no,
still out there, which is great.
no, they are because both the two of them are absolutely fantastic. And it helps that I think your narrators were absolutely spot on with it as well. You're two really good narrators there. And obviously, like I said, well, I'm going to try and get one of them back on spoken label soon as well. So the poor gentleman's has some family issues, so it's like that will happen. But anyway, we'll come on to that another day, as I would say, definitely so. But yeah, but I can. As we're starting to wrap up now, I'm conscious of the time tonight as well for you. But obviously, like sort of person you are, I know looking at your website, you've always got other bits and pieces on the go. So what's next for you then, writing wise?
I've just published a book called The Love of His Life. It's a psychological thriller with a stalker theme, trigger warning again, potentially for somebody, with a sort of quite a big twist. I wrote it a long time back and I had tried to get that published traditionally. So it's that gathering proverbial dust in my file for ages and ages. And I haven't had any interest. But I've had some very nice rejections where they said, "Oh, it's not the story. I think it's excellent. It's really good. You should try. You should self-publish it. It's just that we can't take anything new on at the moment." And I think a lot of it's the financial situation everybody's in. The smaller publishers just aren't, willing to take a punt on a new author because financially they're a bit concerned. So I thought, you know what, sod it, I'll put it out myself. So that one's out there with the second books. It's a trilogy, so the second book's already on pre-order for that. But there's quite a big twist just towards the end of part one that will probably take people by surprise, because that's sort of the main feedback I've had so far from readers have been like, "Oh, wow, yeah, I wasn't expecting that."
Well,
But it's
that's
not
good.
quite as gory. It's not as gory. A little bit, but not as gory as any of the others. So
That's good. I think I'm always of the opinion, but I think you've got to keep your readers on your toes anyway. So, and that way then I'm thinking, I
no
wasn't
one wants
expecting that.
anything boring, do they? Everyone, I mean, I think a lot of times a particular subject becomes popular and then everybody
Hmm.
does it. They do it in the same way and it dies a death. So I wanted to do something a little bit different with it. But that one's going to be in audio too. So there's a young lady actually
Oh.
currently
Oh,
recording
yeah.
that one.
Oh,
So
good, yeah. Always reminds me of when Amanda's, obviously we told Amanda already, one of Amanda's, or one of the books, some of the novels were on Audible. I remember her getting a 14-year-old girl we found out halfway through it, I was doing one of her zombie novels, and you had to get permission off her parents to do it. She was really good as well, she was. But like, it was like, she must have secretly loved all the bad language and sent this flying around. You do, but like you just don't know what you're gonna get sometimes, do you, people? So it's like it adds to the fun, I think, sometimes. That one's oh God, yeah. So excellent. Good luck with it, definitely with that one. So now as before, we're not actually having an audio extract of this podcast today for a few reasons. I've been trying to get an extract, but it's not come together. But anyway, listen, Molly, what we're going to let you do is give us the hard sell then. So tell people if they want to find out more about you, where do you recommend they go first of all?
so everything is on Amazon. I mean, you can't avoid using the Zon, whether you like it or not. But there are other digital platforms that you can purchase books from, like Barnes and Noble and Waterstones online, so that they are everywhere. So if you Google my name, my author name, you will generally find quite a lot of the stores that are selling my books, but you will definitely find them all on Amazon. And like I say, 3 of them are already in audio and another 2 are in production at the moment. So the other horror short story collection will be due out in the next few weeks, and that will be followed by The Love of His Life, which will also be coming out possibly about a month's time, and then that'll be followed by the second in the series, which will also come out on audio too. So just keep an eye.
Few hours definitely, and obviously, if you want, I've said that's all everything is now. Obviously, your website. I know you've got your own website as well, haven't you? As well, so I know you got your. You find your own website, and you can find you on Facebook and all your books on Amazon, like you said, with that as well. So you can easily track you
TikTok
down.
even. Yes,
Yeah.
my daughter made me do a TikTok, so I am
Oh,
at
wow, you got TikTok. Oh, wow.
author. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, Anna told me that this is the place you go for because apparently book talk's huge. She said so. Get on there and like do videos. Well, I don't do videos of me. I do videos of the books. There's like no way I'm putting videos of me on there. So I
Oh,
saw that.
I know. Oh, I've done loads. I've done quite a few of the poems on there, kind of plus my short stories up as well. And you do like you get tons of views on that, and you think to myself, I thought it's scary. It's really scary. So.
And then you get loads of weird messages, don't you? Well, you probably being a bloke, you don't get quite as many, but it's like really bizarre. So like, hello, you are beautiful, great author.
Oh,
Can I
I've had
be your friend? And you're like that. Oh
I've had
no,
I've had 2 Russian prostitutes contact me so far on that.
no. Quite disturbingly, so have I on Twitter.
Yeah. Oh, we've got plenty of them, right? Funniest one I've had on that was on Facebook, and some Russian spammer tried contacting me. Now, if you look at my Facebook profile, and you know this already, you're friends with me, Molly, in it, and you see a picture of me and Amanda on there, and Amanda is, the picture in question at the time was slightly more forward to the camera than me. And this Russian spammer thought Andy was Amanda. Yeah. And
This isn't going to end well, is it?
I just banging my head on the ceiling. He was messaging me saying, "You are very beautiful. I would like to marry you." And I thought, I was back. Who are you talking to here?
Oh, my favourite was some woman on Twitter actually sent me a picture of her bum. I'm just kind of like, why would I want that? Oh my God. So I actually answered at one point going, "Hi, why have you sent me a picture of your bottom?" And then I've checked her out and gone, "Oh, that's why. Oh, I got you.
Oh yeah.
You better block that."
Oh no, I've got the stage now where, and this is a good something you'll have to wrap up with today, was obviously I've got a profile on a website called matchmaker.fm, and that's not a dating site if you're wondering, Molly. It's where basically people can contact you on going their podcasts and stuff like that. I've had some. I got a stage on my blog, and I'm going to put some of these up on Substack as well, of some of the most awful approaches I've had, and I've had some absolutely dreadful ones.
You could actually do an entire program about that, to be fair, couldn't you? And I think people would find it quite amusing.
Yeah, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to do. I'll edit this down, and we'll do something on this because you find the stuff you get on trolling on the internet is a novel itself sometimes.
It is. The weird and random shit you get sent is just out there, isn't it? I mean, the bottom has to be up there on the list. Because I called my daughter over. She was with me at the time like that. Hannah, some woman sent me a picture of her bum. She's like, yeah, they do, Mum. It's like, one of those perv cameras. Oh, is it?
Yeah. And they want you to go and pay $200 a month just to see it.
See the rest of the bum.
Yeah.
You're right. Have a look at the own. It's fine for free.
And that's what we get like people wonder how we met, like, didn't it? But you were telling somebody off on a spam page, like,
yeah. Now people are going to be like, are they?
Yeah, and that's what you get. Like, is like you get spam bots that contact me all the time, trying to say, "I will make your podcast very successful," and you get them all on like dodgy editing and whatever else you don't. You so
I'll market your book. Have you got a website? No. How are you going to market the book?
Fuck off then, yeah. You get so many.
One follower on Facebook. Go on, get on.
Exactly. That's what they're doing. If you take it, they either don't do it with it, or they just click refreshing your page about 5 million times, don't they?
The last time I had one, I clicked on his thing. And he literally had 5 followers. So I sort of emailed him back with like, I thought I was unpopular, mate. You really are not doing well. 5 followers, seriously. That is really poor.
Exactly. Not even nice to people. So I know, listen, guys, it goes, me and Joe are going to, okay. Oops. Right. Me and Molly, I nearly said it then, nearly outed you then. I'm going to wrap up here, so we're going to have a chat for a bit. So, thankfully, the internet went unstable, and so people didn't catch me out in you. So we're going to wrap up here, and we're going to have a review. This has been great fun, this one, Molly. So keep in touch, okay? Definitely on that one. And I'm going to have a chat to the boss next door, and at one point, we're going to get the 3 of us on talking about bits of ghostwriting and bits and pieces. I've done copywriting. I know what you two do, and it could be a fascinating podcast to let you two talk about the.
Well, we'll just do an entire banter session on spammers and scammers.
I'll bring her on. We'll sort that one out when I do the autumn season.
That would be hilarious. Like you could do like a little sort of like invite a couple of people, and we'll all just sit there and just talk about the funniest and the worst scammer messages.
That's a really good idea. That I know. I'm rambling before we come off here. I know a comic poet that's absolutely superb for that. And I'm gonna put a call out on that. Yeah, we'll do that in the autumn. We'll get you on, get Amanda on.
It would really help I think it would help other people, because I think there are newbies out there who are falling for that stuff. And you can make it funny, but at the same time, hopefully somebody listening will go, "Oh, I've had one of those messages. Perhaps I shouldn't have given them my link."
Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Definitely. We'll sort that one out. Listen, anyway, we'll wrap up here anyway. Anyway, guys and girls, it's been a pleasure today, Molly. I said we will have you on air again, definitely. It's been one of the funniest podcasts I've had in ages, and I get some characters on there, put it bluntly.
Some really
So
random folks.
well, best way to be. So right there, listen, guys and girls, as Don Callis over at AEW Wrestling says, stay safe and safe booking over, and we will see you all next time.